Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the Roborock Dyad Pro. Roborock did send me this sample, but any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this product or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Take a look at the retail box and packaging. Everything looks great. Nice grip handle. We have our key features on the back side, walking you through everything in more detail. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and see what's inside. Here are some of the contents. First up, we have our quick start guide here. Very detailed for us. Everything laid out to clearly get us up and running. They also provide a full user guide and manual with even more information for you. This is available in multiple languages. Next, you'll see we have the handle of the unit. We will have to get that installed. Got our control buttons up there at the top. You'll see on this side another button, and we have some product notes for it. Next, you'll see our multi-purpose cleaning brush and detangler with Roborock's branding. We have an extra replacement washable filter. We also have our power supply right here with barrel connector. There's a look at the specs if you're interested. Here are more tech specs for you as well. And here's a look at the rest of the contents. You'll see that our charging basin dock comes in two pieces here. And it looks like it just gently snaps in place. There we go. We have that fully set up and ready to charge and house our accessories. And then lastly, we have the main unit of the wet dry vac. Let's look at this in more detail. Front and center, you'll see Roborock's logo and branding on the dirty water tank, clean water tank up top, Roborock Dyad Power branding right there. Then we have our splash guard adjustment. So maybe you can see that, maybe you can't, but it's a fine-tune adjustment for any splashing. And you can slide that back and forth. We'll go ahead, we'll prop it up so we can open our dirty water tank here. There's our max indicator letting us know when it's full, removable and washable filter. This one's already installed, so we do get two. And then this can just gently pull out to wash and clean and maintain as needed. And then just gently press it back in place. If you want to see what it looks like with it removed, there you go. And then up at the top, press to release. Here's our clean water tank. Max fill line, easy pour in to refill and add your clean water. They also have some additional instructions for you right there with the QR code. This also will just line up and snap in place. Up at the top, we'll have, I believe, our display. This is where we're going to connect the handle. Let me give you that side profile. So the max indicators are on the same side for both tanks. We also have down here our lock and unlock button to get access to the rollers if we want to clean and replace as needed. Flip it over to the other side. Very similar. But again, we don't have the lock and unlock right there. That's going to be on that other side we just looked at. Our wheels. Let's flip it to the back side. Get a feel for how everything looks. Additional product information right there. And then we'll flip it over to the very bottom. Look at our three rollers right there. Pretty sweet. And got two additional wheels on the bottom as well. And our charging contacts on this side. Now let's go ahead, let's get this set up. Installation's simple and straightforward. So you'll take the included handle, you'll line it up with the hole on the back right there. It's only going to fit in one way, so make sure you have basically this pointy knob pressed out, if that makes sense. So just like that, make sure it's pointing towards the water tank, the clean water tank or the display, and then just press in place. It'll snap right in, and there you go. You now have everything all set up and ready to go. In the off chance you need to remove that handle for whatever reason, you can go on the inside right here. There's a button you can press that's going to release the handle, and then you can just very gently pull it out. So I'll show you that. Ta-da, the handle comes right out there. But we want to snap it in place like that. Now let's go ahead, let's charge it up, fill it up, and try it out. Here's a good real-world test here. We got some muddy dog paw prints on the floor. They're over a week old now, and the RoboVac isn't able to clean them off. So let's get to cleaning with our Dyad Pro to see if it can make a difference.
Cleaning started.
Here's a look at the charging base after the first self-clean. And here's a look at the underside of the brush rollers. They look as good as new. And in regards to water usage, it was a mix of max and auto. I'd say about 50-50. So we have about half of the tank left, maybe a little bit less. And we cleaned over 600 square feet. Dirty water tank, surprisingly empty, but we got some good content in there, so let's look at it. Filter looks pretty good. Everything's washable. Little bit of dirty water up around the top. Got some pet hair collected right there, as well as a little piece of the Christmas tree. And then our dirty water and a couple of pieces of hair, grass clippings, things like that, collecting on the inside. Oh, gross. Did you see that? Some sort of chunk at the bottom. That's disgusting. All right, there's that clump of debris at the bottom. Gross. With our first clean out of the way, I wanted to show you what it looks like to connect the Dyad Pro to your Roborock app. This is what you'll be greeted with once you have it set up in your account. You get real-time indicator of its current status. 80% is what our battery's at, and you'll see we have a couple of quick settings that we can go over. First, in the top right-hand corner, we have our self-cleaning and drying options right here that you can customize. Love that we have a couple things to change here. And again, there's a self-cleaning mode or deep self-cleaning. Pick and choose which one you want. Unlock to automatically resume cleaning. You can toggle that on or off. Silent drying duration. How many hours do you want to dry for? 2 to 6 hours. Very detailed and thorough app with nice and key customizations. Smart schedule drying. Do not disturb. You can view your cleaning history here. Nice breakdown depending on the day. So you can see that. Then we have our maintenance settings. You'll want to look at that every once in a while to make sure you have everything maintained properly. And then we have product info, firmware updates, things along those lines. And then lastly, we can delete the device. So great settings there. But most of you, after you configure that one time, you're probably not coming back to it. If you even want to use the app again, then you can just adjust everything you can adjust on the unit itself right here from your phone, just to have it all set up and ready to go. So we have auto mode, max mode, floor drying mode, and eco mode. All of that right there for us to just easily change as we see fit. You also notice, again, turbo suction power, high water flow, slow roller speed. It gives you that breakdown of each one depending on the setting that you're choosing. So all that broken down for you right there on the app. So simple, easy to set up and use if you want. Not a big deal though if you don't ever go into the app. You're not missing much, but it does give you some of those advanced customization settings, especially in your dry modes and how you want it to self-clean. Now it's time to compare our Dyad Pro to the competition. I've personally tested and reviewed 13 wet dry vacs and counting, so this data will continue to refine over time, but we've taken the averages of all the units that we've tested to help you have a good indicator of where this stacks up against the competition in regards to performance. So first up, you'll see rated power measured in watts. The higher this value, the more powerful your wet dry vac is going to be. Typically, that's going to be what you want. You want a more powerful unit versus a weaker unit. So in this case, 260 watts is our rated power for our Dyad Pro compared to the average of 230. So we are above average in the power ranking. Next, in decibels, you'll see this comes in at 73 decibels. That's with its max setting enabled compared to the competition of 76 decibels. So with this value, the lower the number, the quieter your unit is. And in this case, technically we're about 3 decibels quieter than the average. But I'm going to tell you, if you use this side by side with a 76 decibel wet dry vac, you'll be hard pressed to tell the difference. And something we don't measure, but this kind of got me thinking about measuring it in the future, is when I was self-cleaning with this unit, I noticed it was a lot louder than the typical self-cleaning procedure of other wet dry vacs, specifically from Tyneco's brand. Next, battery life measured in minutes. This has a 43-minute runtime compared to the average of 36 minutes. So it's nice to see we got that extra 7 minutes, but I do want to point out this is an advertised average. Realistically, from our time tests, just using auto mode, you can expect, I'd say, around 35 or 36 minutes of actual use cleaning. Next, moving right along, we have our battery capacity measured in milliamp hours. Typically, the larger this value, the better battery life you'll have. So in this case, this makes sense that they're claiming 43 minutes because they have an above average battery capacity at 4,000 milliamp hours compared to your typical 3,700 milliamp hour battery. Then we have our clean water tank capacity. This is measured in milliliters. The higher the result, the larger your tank's going to be, which is what you want because that means you're refilling it less. So in this case, it has a 900 milliliter clean water tank, about 100 milliliters more than the average. And then we have our dirty water tank, also measured in milliliters. The larger the value for this tank size, same thing, it'll be less trips to the sink to empty, wash, and clean out. So in this case, 770 milliliter dirty water tank size compared to the average of 652 milliliters. And last but not least, the cost of this wet dry vac. This will help us bring in everything we just looked at to get a better feel for the value of this versus the competition. Now, we cover models of all different ranges and feature sets, but in this case, you'll see with our Dyad Pro, we're about a couple $100 less than the typical average wet dry vac, but you could argue you're picking up some key features like the additional 2 split brush rollers on the front of the unit and above average battery capacity, similar, maybe a little bit better runtime and actual use, and you're getting the larger or above average clean and dirty water tanks. After using the Roborock Dyad Pro, let me share with you my final thoughts. Here's what you need to know. So for this particular wet dry vac, they did a great job with its unique multi-brush design. I'm led to believe that's why I've experienced better, larger object pickup and cleaning than with your typical wet dry vac with just one roller. So hats off to them for that. If that's something that you're encountering a lot on your floors, think things along the lines of Cheerios, debris like that. This does a really nice job. I also personally like the dedicated solution holder, the little tank on the bottom, compared to just mixing it directly into the water. I like that it's doing it itself, and you can just fill up the solution and just keep replacing the water as needed until the solution runs out. So I really like that design better than the typical mix it yourself, but that leads me to some things I want to see change or improve in the future. And the first one is they got to include some solution. I'm just blown away that we didn't get any solution included, even if it's just a small like 4-ounce bottle or something like that with this wet dry vac. That's a missed opportunity there. So I'd love to see that changed in the future. And I noticed with this particular design, it just feels a little bit more clunky compared to your Tyneco wet dry vac, specifically like putting it on and off the charger. It takes me a second. You kind of like miss and you don't get it positioned properly. I've never had that experience with Tynecos, but with this one, it just seems a little bit clunky and not as refined or polished. Also want to point out, they have a missed opportunity by not including any sort of LED light strip or bar on the front. That would be a welcomed addition in the future that hopefully won't cost that much more and hopefully won't sacrifice much, if any, battery life. Last but not least, I mentioned this earlier, but it's fairly loud in the self-cleaning department. Most are going to be loud. This one just seemed a little bit louder than your average. Oh, and one more thing. Speaking of that clunky design I mentioned earlier, it's difficult to install the water tank, so it's easy to remove, but I do not like the design of trying to put it back on. Maybe it's just user error, maybe things are more complicated when I'm filming, but it's not as easy to put back on, to reinstall like most wet dry vac water tanks. Is any of that unforgivable or reason why you shouldn't get that? Well, really that's going to be up to you. In regards to price and performance, it's well in line with what you should expect out there, and I'd argue it's even exceeding what you're paying for.